of our seat. And so you're at the edge of your seat right now. I want to make sure that both of your feet are uncrossed. Just take a moment to feel what it feels like to have the floor supporting your feet, to have the seat supporting your body. If you don't know what to do with your hands, simply put them on your knees, facing towards the floor. And what I want you to do is we're going to take 4 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. And when you exhale, I want you to imagine tension, stress, judgment, negativity, all of that, just viscerally leaving your body, right? In is this new sense of opportunity and learning and growth. Out is that judgment and negativity. Let's just take a moment to reset. All right, we are in our mindfulness stance. Breathing in, feel free to close your eyes. Out. In. Out. In. Out. Last one, biggest one yet. In. Out. And if you closed your eyes, take a moment to open them. Welcome back. Just take a moment to see how you feel compared to just 30 seconds ago. Chances are you might feel a little bit more relaxed, a little bit calmer. And I'm going to explain some of the science behind why that is. See, previously, we thought it was a one-way street. Your brain is going to affect your respiratory system through what you might have heard of as your fight or flight response. You have anxious thoughts. Perhaps you perceive a threat. That's going to make you breathe faster so you can get oxygen towards your muscle groups so that you can flee or get ready to fight. However, through neural scanning, what we learn now is that it's a two-way street. And that means that not only does our brain affect our breathing patterns, but our breathing patterns also can affect our brain. This is a science that the East has been using for thousands and thousands of years. What is happening is that there's actually a series of cells right at the base of your spine, where your spine hits your brain, that is looking at your breathing patterns. And so even if you are in fight or flight, even if you are feeling threatened, right, and that could be a physical threat or a psychological threat, if you are doing long, controlled breathing, especially with the exhale, it can trick your brain into thinking, you know what, you're not in danger. You're actually safe. You're so safe that we're going to initiate that rest and digest response, and that's going to actually prepare your body to go to bed. And so know that you have the power of emotional regulation, right? You have the power to control how your body responds, and you can do that through different breathing techniques. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about mindfulness since we don't have a ton of time today. We're going to spend about half of it talking about it and the other half experiencing it. And so let's use the chat and have a little bit of a discussion here. And the first question is, what does it actually mean? If you've ever heard this term, it's get thrown around a lot recently. What does it mean to be mindful? If someone is being described as mindful, what does that actually mean? All right, we already have one response: to be present. Okay, love that. When someone is mindful, what are they? Susanna says they stop and focus, right? And so this idea of being present, of being focused on what's going on right now, these are all correct. Any other thoughts? When you hear the term mindfulness, awareness, I love that. In the moment, yeah, these are all correct. One of my favorite definitions of mindfulness is essentially going from autopilot, right? Going from just working on muscle memory to becoming completely self-aware, right? You are so in the moment. Now, in psychology, Oftentimes, when people are obsessive or thinking too much about past events, past trauma, what that leads to is depressive thoughts. Now, when you are thinking too much about the future, what could happen, right? These anxious thoughts, that leads to anxiety, that leads to worry. And so here we are, stuck in between these two states, right? The future is bringing us anxiety, the past is bringing us depressive thoughts. How can we maintain and protect our own mental health? That's where mindfulness comes in, because it suddenly removes us from living in those other states to being completely present, where all that matters is what's happening right now. You're going from autopilot to becoming self-aware. Now, mindfulness is actually a practice, right? It's a mental fitness technique. It allows you to strengthen your sense of focus. So every time you're practicing mindfulness, I want you to consider it like a rep in the gym. And so just continuing with this gym analogy, if you go work out, right, you might feel better, right? You might feel better after just one session. However, in terms of your lifestyle, in terms of your relationship with your body or how it performs or how it looks, chances are it's not going to have that big of a difference if you just worked out once. The same is with mindfulness, right? Doing a few deep breaths, they may have temporarily made you feel better, which is awesome. But to actually see the effects, those sustained effects in your everyday life, you need to consider it that it takes practice. It takes a daily habit or doing it every moment. But one thing that is not about mindfulness is oftentimes it's considered something that you only do for half an hour or 20 minutes, and you need a very controlled environment with this spa-like music in the background. When I practice mindfulness, it's when I'm waiting for an Uber, when I'm in line, when I just need a moment to myself. It can take as little as a couple seconds. And so that's the technique that I want to introduce to you today, something that you can do anywhere on the spot. Now, you might see in my screen here this cute little monkey, as well as this stool. And I want to bring one more metaphor when describing mindfulness, and that is that meditators, they often call their minds the monkey mind, right? It's jumping from branch to branch to branch continuously. In fact, we have about 60 to 80,000 thoughts every single day. Now, that is a ton of branches for your mind to be constantly jumping between. However, every time you practice mindfulness, you are taking this monkey mind and you are putting it on that stool. And so the first couple times you practice it, what's going to happen? Right? That monkey is going to immediately want to jump off that stool. It is not trained to be on that stool. It's going to see something that it wants and jump off. But after you put that monkey on, maybe 5 times, maybe 10 times, maybe 100 times, it's going to become more and more accustomed to being on that stool. And suddenly by that 101st time, you put it on the stool and it stays on that stool for a minute before jumping off to another thought. That's how your mind is going to work, right? Mindfulness is the selective, right, awareness that you can do, and it immediately puts you in that present moment. And so for our next mindfulness technique, I simply want you to focus on your 5 senses, right? We're going to just take a moment to focus only on one thing, right? All of us on this call are professionals. That means we are amazing multitaskers. During mindfulness, I want you to do the exact opposite. We are going from multitasking to single tasking. You are only focused on one singular thing. To help us ground in the moment, let's go through our 5 different senses. And so again, I invite you to edge, right? To the edge of your seat. Feet are uncrossed. Hands are on our knees. Let's take a moment to notice first, what are we smelling? Now I want you to notice what you're looking at. Take a moment to look at the room around you and notice details. you didn't pick up on before. Could be a speck of dust, could be a hue of the light, could be a scratch. Take a moment to really notice the details. Let's move on to hearing. Listen, for better or for worse, to the sound of my voice. Listen to the music. Listen to other noises that may be present in your room. Now let's move over to touch. Notice the touch, the feeling of your clothes against your skin. Notice the feeling of your feet against the floor. Of your body against your seat. Do you feel heavy? Or are you feeling light? Are you feeling restless? Or are you feeling still? Finally, notice the taste of your mouth. Hopefully you brushed your teeth this morning. What does it taste like? And we can finish this exercise with one big breath in through our nose, out through the mouth. Now, just going through those 5 senses, chances are you weren't thinking about what happened to you yesterday. Chances are you weren't thinking about what you have to do tomorrow. You channeled your mind, right? You focused your mind. And that's exactly what we want to do with mindfulness, right? It's channeling, it's focusing your thought so that you are not living outside of that present moment. Now, you may have heard many meditators, they like to focus on one thing in particular, more than any other things. Put it in the chat if you have a guess. What do people who practice mindfulness, maybe you have a meditation app or something like that, what do they tell you to focus on the most? Anyone have an idea? All right, Judith, you win the prize here. Your breath, right? And so there's oftentimes, right, where we're asked to focus on our breath, and breathing, besides keeping us alive, right, is something that's incredibly special. And what I want to do is give you a little bit of background on why it is that we're focused on your breath. It's because it is one of the only activities in your body that is both voluntary, right? If I ask you to take deep breaths, you are going to do it. However, if I don't ask you to breathe, you're still doing it, right? Chances are, if you're still on this Zoom call, 20 minutes in, you've been breathing the entire time. And so it is this bridge between our subconscious mind and our conscious mind. Very few activities we do have that element. And because of that, and because that is tangible, I'm not asking you to have faith or to think about something that is not there, to imagine or vision or focus on a mantra. I'm asking you to focus on something that is very real. It's right under your nose. It is continuous. You're going to keep on doing it, right? As long as you're here. And it's that bridge between your subconscious and conscious minds. That's why breath is such an incredible thing to focus on, especially when you're feeling stressed. And so we're going to go over different techniques that are going to really focus now on our breath going forward. Before we do that, I want to simply define a little bit what mindfulness actually is. So mindfulness is the moment-to-moment awareness, right, of the present. Now, there was a study done by Harvard that actually showcased 47% of the time when you're doing something, your mind is thinking about something else. It's the reason why you have those moments where you're driving on the highway and suddenly you're 5 exits past where you thought you were, right? You're even though you're driving, you're doing something that should very much require your attention. You're thinking about something else. It's the reason why you might be on this Zoom call and you're thinking about, what am I going to have for dinner? What am I going to have for lunch, right? Your mind is elsewhere. And so mindfulness is taking your mind and noticing when it's not thinking about the present moment and then bringing it back continuously, putting that monkey back on that stool, right? It's a selective focus on an object. It could be a feeling, could be a behavior, it could be a thought, a sensation, and it could be your breath as well. Now, it can help certainly with anxiety, with depression, with having better attention, but it is not a panacea. It's not a cure-all. This is simply a tool, right? And it can be done anywhere. And why it's being done right now at work is because that we're seeing that it can help to increase collaboration amongst employees. It can be used for effective stress management. And in fact, we're seeing about 1/3 of employees who are practicing mindfulness actually have a better relationship with their responsibilities at work, with their work stream, as well as with their colleagues. And so it is literally rewiring your brain through a process called neuroplasticity, right? And so what it's not exactly meditation. You might hear me use those terms. Mindfulness is simply the practice, right, of meditation. There's other types of meditation, yoga, breathing exercises. Something that it's not as well is it's not clearing your mind. It's not emptying your mind. We have those 60 to 80,000 thoughts. It would be impossible for you to clear your mind. However, what mindfulness does, it gives you a tool to have a better reaction, a better relationship, whatever thoughts do come up. And though you might feel relaxed, especially with this ambiance, it's not necessarily going to always be relaxing because we don't necessarily know what type of thoughts are going to come up in our mind. And it is incredibly hard, right? It's not an easy thing to do. It's building a muscle, and that takes practice. And then another thing that it's not, you might heard of it as being part of Buddhism or other types of Eastern religions. It's one of the practices that they utilize, like singing would be to a Western religion, right? It's not necessarily religious in nature. It's actually secular and it's science-based. And that's why we can actually utilize it in various different settings. And why it's really gained momentum now is that with the onset of remote work, and we're seeing, according to the American Psychology Association, that employee work stress is at all-time highs, right? There's this negative effect that work is having on us that's perpetuating patterns of burnout. In fact, according to Oracle, about 85% of workers that were polled were showing that mental health issues that were happening at work, well, now that line between work and home is getting thinner and thinner, and suddenly it's affecting the people around us. It's affecting our family members, our roommates, our friends, our pets. They all get affected by it. And that's why it's becoming increasingly important to utilize these techniques to have a better relationship and to help promote work-life balance. And so let's end with just one more technique. We have about 5 minutes left on today's presentation, and that technique is called a box breathing technique. And this is a technique that's utilized by a variety of different audiences. You have monks that live in monasteries that have been using this technique for thousands of years, all the way to you have Navy SEALs that in the heat of combat, when they still need to be strategic, they still need to make calm, cool, collected decisions, even under extreme pressures, they also are utilizing this technique, right? And so what this technique is you are going to breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. Then you are going to pause for a count of 4. Then you will breathe out through your mouth for a count of 4. And then again, you are going to pause for a count of 4. So that's in, pause, out, pause. What it's doing, it's going to activate that rest and digest system that we were talking about before. And with our breath, we're creating this box. We're creating a loop that's happening continuously. And in that state, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you just a series of questions to help you reflect. Because what we are doing is we are intentionally entering into a delta state of our brain waves. This is a calm state. This is a very creative state, right? And this is a thanks, Benita. And this is a state that even people that are inventors would purposely get themselves into. In fact, Thomas Edison, he used to have a rocking chair. He would rock himself with the metal ball in his hand. And underneath that metal ball would be a metal tray. And as soon as he would start to fall asleep, that ball would inevitably fall. He would wake up, and that's where he would do his best thinking. That's where he would create his inventions, right? In that delta state. And so what I want us to do is enter into that state and just ask ourselves a couple questions. And with that, for the final time today, we are going to scoot to the edge of our seat, feet apart, hands on our knees. I invite you to close your eyes like drapes over a window. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. In. Pause. Out. Pause. In. Pause. Out. Pause. On your own. Now allow your breathing to go back to normal. And in this state, I want you to imagine what your utopia looks like. Your ideal version of the world. How are people treating each other? What are they doing with their time? What does it look like? Now think of one thing that you can do this week that could help make that dream come to fruition. And with that, let's take 2 last deep breaths. Again, in through the nose, tension out through the mouth. Breathing in, out. Last one, biggest one you're doing all week. Breathing in and out. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you found today's session to be both informative, relaxing, cathartic. It's a pleasure working with this group. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Raul. And before we head out today, I'd like to launch a brief satisfaction poll and some upcoming events as well. If only, Latoya, if only.
Yeah, absolutely. I want that too.
Our first event that I'd like to showcase here is on May 31st. We have an orientation to the learning community for our learning community website. Bridget and Luis will be going through how to best utilize the website, how you can get the most out of it, and basically how to use it. On June 6th, we will have the follow-on to our earlier event, Conversations on Vaccine Equity after the end of the public health emergency. This will be a discussion session following on the presentation that we had previously. And then coming soon, we have the continuation of our social determinants of health series, both in June and July. That will be the third Wednesday of each of those respective months. The first one will be on immigration policy and health, and then the second one will be on food and security. And then when you get a chance, we'd really appreciate it if you could fill out the event satisfaction poll that has come up. And once you do that, I just want to thank you all once again for taking the time today to join us, and thank Raul again for facilitating this wonderful presentation and session.
Appreciate that, and I'll definitely share the slides as well.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll post them on the website as well, and find a way to share them around.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Take care, Raul.
Bye, everybody.
Hi. Quick question. Oh, wait, let me stop recording.